To some news out of Iran now. The niece of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has been arrested after she publicly called for foreign governments to cut ties with Tehran over their violent crackdown on the protesters. Hundreds of people have been killed and thousands have been arrested in the unrest which erupted more than 2 months ago after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who died at the hands of the so-called morality police. Farideh Muradkhani is an engineer and a well-known rights activist in Iran. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
How long do we have to witness oppression by political autocrats in any part of this world? Isn't the experience of Hitler, Mussolini, Ceausescu, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Khamenei, and to this last one, Khamenei, enough to make the world think of a new way?
Well, earlier I spoke to our very own Pia Steckelbach on all of this. Take a listen.
Well, Hamda, she's definitely a very interesting figure. You have to imagine she's the niece of Ayatollah Khamenei, and she's also a social activist. So how does that go together? It comes for sure with harsh circumstances. You're right, she has been imprisoned before. That was January this year. Back then, she has been transferred to the Evin prison. Hamda, if you remember, Evin prison is that notorious one where a fire broke out about 1.5 months ago. And many of those arrested amid the protests are also in there. Now, the reason back then why she was arrested in January was also a video where she was praising the widow of the last Shah of Iran and her achievements. Before the Islamic Republic was established in 1979, Iran was a monarchy ruled by the Shah. But, positive commemoration of that period is very much suppressed in Iran today. And the mother of Farideh Muradkhani is Khamenei's sister, but already in the 80s, in the middle of the war, by the way, between Iran and Iraq, she fled to Iraq, joining her husband. Her husband is a cleric, Sheikh Ali Tehrani, who, by the way, also is a regime critic, who also spent 10 years in Iranian prison. Farideh Muradkhani herself is long known actually for her activism, mostly against the death penalty in Iran, but also as an activist for or an advocate for civil freedoms. Now, after yesterday's video came out that went viral very, very quickly, she was arrested again. That is according to what her brother tweeted. He said that she was arrested while at a persecutor's office in response to a court order. Now, her video is pretty clear. I mean, we've just heard it. She calls for regimes to cut ties with Iran amid the protests. And the human rights violations. She's calling the Iranian regime child murders. This is probably the most outspoken she has ever been, supporting the protests, although herself still wearing the hijab. But of course, her words are very, very attacking towards the Iranian regime. And Hamda, we don't really know when that video is exactly from, if it was indeed recorded yesterday. We also don't really know anything about her whereabouts now or what might happen to her now. But it is very interesting because Farideh Muradkhani has been able to criticize the regime of some sort, of course facing some repressions. But as she's also part of the family of the Supreme Leader, she presumably enjoyed some form of protection, for example, from longer imprisonments or for even worse consequences. But now that attention is on Iran like it was at no time before, we cannot be sure what ramifications she is going to face right now. This time, we also cannot expect to receive a lot of information about her. We should follow up on her brother, who might receive more information on her.